So The Last of Us on HBO has had a very bad week. They lost Neil Druckmann, the creator of the game and the executive producer of the TV show, and they lost one of the main writers that wrote the first two seasons. So what does this mean for seasons 3 and 4? And what does it mean for The Last of Us TV show overall? But first, please like, subscribe, and share. Anything you can do will help my channel reach more people. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that bell icon so you can get my videos as soon as they drop. Yes, Neil Druckmann is the creative mind behind The Last of Us video game, and he was one of the executive producers of seasons 1 and 2. In fact, they would have interviews with Neil Druckmann after each episode aired. If you watch the show on demand on HBO Max or whatever the heck it was called on your streaming service at the time, at the end of each episode, Neil Druckmann would talk about what it was like bringing in that scene from his game into the TV show. But the fact is that the show has not been doing well. And while season 1 was universally acclaimed, season 2 started out well and progressively got worse. And while some people might say that that's because Joel died, oh, by the way, spoiler alert, but I don't know why you'd be watching this if you hadn't already seen the show. But yes, Joel does die in the second episode of season 2. But you know what? That's exactly when he dies in the game. So they didn't change much. Though people that were watching the show who've never played the game were possibly shocked to see Pedro Pascal die. Though if you've actually seen anything with Pedro Pascal that came out prior to The Mandalorian, you got to see him die in almost every single thing he was ever in. Shout out to the people who saw his eyes gouged out in Game of Thrones. Why would you spend your time making a show when you have other jobs and the show's not doing well? Neil Druckmann is the head of Naughty Dog, at least the head of creative. He's the main mind behind The Last of Us Parts 1 and 2, possibly the main mind behind Last of Us Part 3, though they refuse to admit that the game is being developed right now, though most people say it should be at least announced within the next year. Then of course he has a space game that's coming out, and you can actually look up the commercial online and it looks pretty good. The point being is that he has an entire other job. So why would he spend his time helping HBO make a show that at this point is not even being received well? That's right, The Last of Us Season 2 was not received well. Whether it was people hating on Bella, people surprised that Pedro Pascal was murdered, or people that just hate the show for other reasons, it just progressively got worse compared to the first season, which almost progressively got better. So here we are, Season 2 falling apart, and you're Neil Druckmann, and maybe HBO pushed him out, I really don't know, but if you're Neil Druckmann, why would you waste your time doing this when you could be creating new plot lines? Even Last of Us Part 3 is you were able to create a new perspective. Whether it's going to be about Ellie or someone else in that universe, you're able to create something new instead of getting yelled at for how people hate the fact that you're recreating a story that's already essentially written. His hands and HBO's hands are tied with the plot line of seasons 2, 3, and 4. They're basing it on the plot line of the second game. Now, why season 1 was one game and seasons 2, 3, and 4 are game 2, I'll never know. I assume that's just because HBO offered them a lot more money because the show did so well season 1. They didn't want to spend too much on season 1, but it did so well, they threw a truckload of money. But of course, this is what happened to Game of Thrones as well. It got progressively worse, despite the fact that they got progressively more money to spend on it. Just because you have more money and a bigger team developing your show doesn't necessarily mean it'll be good. And of course, it got even worse for HBO in the later seasons of Game of Thrones because they didn't have any books to work off of. They just had the two producers and writers trying to figure out what they were going to do, and that didn't do well. And I tell you this, if HBO tries to keep making Last of Us without having games to base it on, that'll go about as well as Game of Thrones did. Let's just hope that they don't go beyond what the games did. Maybe they can do some tweaks here and there as they did in season 1, but if they really keep going, do different stories with Ellie or Abby or anyone else in that universe that they're just making crap up, it's not going to do well, because we already know how bad Game of Thrones was in the later seasons. HBO also lost one of the main writers of The Last of Us. That person was also one of the main writers in the early seasons of Westworld, and while Westworld got progressively worse on its own, I actually loved season 1. Of course, when they went out into the real world and all that other garbage, Westworld started to go bad. But nonetheless, now they're losing a veteran writer, they're losing the guy who wrote the game, who helped write season 1 and 2, who was the creative mind behind the original 2 games. So now HBO is going on their own. And I'm sure they're going to have some calls back and forth with him. He's not going to be on set all the time, and when it comes time to make some quick decisions, they'll make them, and sometimes they'll be wrong. So season 2 of HBO's The Last of Us lost more and more viewers as the season went on. Between people being sad that Pedro died, a lot of people hating on Bella's acting or Bella's character, and the fact is that the story just kind of took too much time. Whereas season 1 was going episode for episode with chapters in the game, season 2 expanded it too much and it felt like it was moving too slowly. Just 2 kids walking around in the outskirts of Seattle acting stupid. Eventually, people are going to stop having interest. Especially, let's just be honest, the main selling point of the TV show to those people who did not play the game or know the game story was Pedro Pascal. They signed up for a show that was Pedro Pascal trying to save a young girl. Just like the fact that they signed up for Mandalorian, which was Pedro Pascal saving baby Grogu. Can you see something what people wanted? Because that's what they were wanting, but not what they got. Though if they knew the plot line of the game, they should have known what they were coming into, but most people were just going to see a show. So Pedro is gone, Bella's growing up and she's now the main actress, and frankly, a lot of people hate on that character. Whether it's rightful or wrong, that's just how the internet has reacted to Bella Ramsey becoming the main person in The Last of Us. And thus, The Last of Us is now going downwards. They've lost their creative minds, they lost the main actor that had the appeal to bring people in the first place, and for some reason they now have 2 more seasons of this show. I truly doubt they'll only make season 3, which is the Abby season. They'll make their season 4 and tie it all up. And The Last of Us TV show will die with a whimper on whatever HBO is called 5 years from now. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Make sure to click that subscribe button and check out those videos on screen now.